All right, welcome to my second sprint explanation for my final project for MS539. I'm going to run through a couple things that I've added this week. Kind of had to pivot a little bit because of some problems with my audio files here, but I'm going to revisit that with Preston this week. He kind of helped me with some JSON files that we'll talk about instead in a little bit. But let's go ahead and run our program so I can show you what I've added. Nothing to the sign-in screen yet. I'm learning that user authentication is a little bit trickier and requires encryption if you're doing it for real. I probably, for the sake of this project, might end up just doing an email and password without an encryption. I'll have to see if I have time for that with just like a JSON file storing that information. But in the real world, that wouldn't be secure. But right now, we're just signing in here. Brings us to our dashboard. A couple things we added to the meditation dashboard. Some meditation poses for the user to, possibly use. I updated our little label here, or text box here, to add a little bit more information about what is meditation and about breathing and all that I have from my I have my sources also declared in a doc file that I'll include with the final project for that. So the meditation post is more about meditation. Have my sources for that in the doc file. So scientific evidence for the benefits of meditation and tips for getting started. Now, with the meditation audio, like I said, I still had some trouble running into my files. But what I did do is add a little bit of code that allowed the user to see which audio file they were clicking on. I had to add, it's weird, you can't actually change the background of a picture file, so you have to add a panel in the background and change the color of the panel as you go through, and then re-change all of the other panels to white. And then, so again, with my audio here, you see I still get the error. I'm going to try to meet with Preston this week, see if I can get that fixed. If not, try that new VM that Dr. B, you and I were talking about. So, yeah. And then, so the other things that I added here, so the mood log is the same. Hopefully, I'll be this upcoming week be adding some data from storing some data from the mood log as well. But that's not what I worked on this week. This week, I just got started with basic JSON files and displaying a JSON file properly. This week, I'm going to be working on storing the user information into the JSON file that they input. So right now, I have a preset JSON file load. So the content of that file is I had an OK state. Now there's a little bit more information associated with the JSON file that I'll show you in a bit. And then I also wanted to add a little, basic little clear button that clears this text box. But strangely enough, so that's pretty much all of the new stuff I added to the program itself. Strangely enough, so the journal designer. So this form here, if I go to my Solution Explorer, the journal.cs, that is the form that, okay, so let me actually pull up here. So that journal.cs, that is this form right here, okay? So I can load and do what I did, set up this week. The problem is I cannot actually, something happened when I restarted the Windows, and maybe Dr. B, I don't want to harp on this too much, but we can jump on this at some point this week. Perhaps probably an easy fix, but you see how journals.cs, it doesn't have that WinForms, right? So I can open up dashboard cs.design, right? And I can see that I can do that because when I right click on here and I say open with, there's an option for forms, Windows Forms Designer, all right? But with my journal.cs, I right click here. I can see the code for it just fine, and it works fine in my, in my application, but I can't alter that through the designer, because you see here there's no win forms option. So I don't know why it's treating this form differently. So hopefully that's something I'm going to figure out this week, because as of right now, I can't make any changes to journal.cs through the designer. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about those changes that I made. Let's talk about the easier one first. So the easier one was, I guess the less, I don't want to say easier, less complicated one was all the changes I made to the meditation app here. So what I did, I'm going to show you the code for the meditation tracker. Oh no, that's mood tracker. Meditation. Here it is. Meditation.cs. Where is that? Oh, you know what I can do? I'm going to just do this and view code. There we go. Okay. So basically what I've added here is, so I have a few different items here. I have basically some buttons that control some different picture boxes and text boxes here. So let's see. So I've added a picture box that shows the poses, rich text box that shows the facts, and then a picture box that is like that front first picture that you saw, with like the colorful picture at the beginning. So basically what I did was, when the button poses was clicked, I set some Boolean values. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, yeah, it is a Boolean value, but I set it visible to true, and then I set the text box about the facts, right? Set that to false. Picture in the front visible to false, and then picture front visible to false when you click the button facts. Picture poses visible to false, and then the rich text box with the facts, set that to true. So I added that little stuff there, to the meditation designer. And then the meditation audio. Yeah, so I just basically did the same thing for each picture, where I set all of the other panels. So I associated each panel to its specific picture frequency. And I'm really hoping I get this frequency thing figured out, these files figured out. I'm not gonna lie, I'm really hating having a Mac the more that I program. But that's here nor there. So yeah, set the panels to white, and then if it was the picture that's clicked to 285, I would set that one to green. Same thing with all of these others, except of course their corresponding panels that are behind the picture boxes. So that's how I did that. Now to the fun new stuff, the JSON file. Okay. So on my, like I said, so if I open this back up, I can't show this designer here for some reason. But basically, what I'm doing is I'm loading some information from the JSON file that I made, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. So here's the file. So as you can see, I've got some information associated with each entry. I have the content, I have the user, and I have the date time. So when I clicked the load, the only thing, so in my first trial run, I just printed all of this out. So then I changed it to where it only prints the content for that specific file. So let me go to journal.cs. So I may not be able to open the designer, but I can show you the code for the current designer that I do have. Talk about that. So I had to make a public class journal entry, which is corresponds to my JSON file here. You have the date, time, user, and content. Created public strings for those so they can be accessed other places in a public class. And then we have the fun stuff. So when the button load clicks, we have some fun code here. So basically, string current directory equals directory dot get current directory. That is basically just gets the current directory path where your application is running. String JSON file.read_all-text current directory plus journal data / journal.json. Basically, just this line reads the content of the file name, which is journal.json, which you can see right over here. And then it retrieves the located inside the journal data file. And then the content of that is stored in a string variable called JSON, which we have right here. Okay, so this line right here that I added, list journal entry, journal entries equals JSON serializer dot deserialize list journal entry JSON. So I'm still getting familiar with the JSON serializer and deserializer. Basically, my understanding of it right now is that when it's serialized, it's basically just like a giant string. Or maybe that's backwards. Hold on here. No, yeah. So it deserializes it to a string that can be read. So basically, this line it uses the JSON serializer class from the system's text.json to deserialize the JSON string into a list of journal entry objects. Okay, yeah. So it does. It basically so converts it from just it deserializes it from a JSON string into a list of journal entry objects. So that is so it start like it just the serializer it automatically stores it as a string, so you have to deserialize it to store it as an object. In this case, journal entries. Yeah, okay. That was a long, complicated explanation for one line of code, but that's what it does. All right, so journal entry, current entry equals journal entries index of 0, which is line 35 here. So basically, so it contains at least one element. It's assuming that it contains at least one element. So that's something that Press that I talked about. I'm gonna have to do some if statements too, because we can't just assume that it has an element in there, because if there's no elements in there and I try to run this, then it'll break. I have elements in there right now, right? I have stuff in there, but my code assumes that there's stuff in there, so I'm gonna have to alter that this week as well as storing the user data, and hopefully getting these audio files fixed. If I don't fix the audio files this week, I probably just will scrap that part and focus on the mood tracking in the journal just to get something done. Anyway, so back to this line of code. It assumes the deserialized journal entries contains at least one element and retrieves the first element, which is index 0. Index does not start from 1, it starts from 0 in these cases. And assigns it to a variable named current entry, which we have here. All right, and then our last bit of active code rich text box journal.text equals current entry dot content. So this is where, so we go up here, you see we have date, time, user, and content. This takes the current entry information and displays in the rich text box journal only the content information, which is what I want, instead of the entire string. Yeah, so that's basically what we have going on here. And let's see what else. So this is kind of what I'm going to be trying to do for adding information to the JSON file that the user has, just kind of a basic idea. So push element to the end of the array or add to the end of the list, convert to a JSON string through the JSON serializer, and then write to the text box. So that if they call for it, right to the text box. So that's what I'll be working on this week. And then I'm going to be working on storing. So I know how to display now a JSON file to the text box. And so what I'm going to be working on this week is storing that information properly so that it can be retrieved based on the date, time of the entry. And they'll be able to scroll through the entries that they have. So I'm doing that. And then I'm going to, since it'll be similar just numerically, I'm going to be trying to do the same thing with the mood tracker information. And then my last week, I'll be kind of figuring out how to display this for the user. And then also this week, but that'll be after. I'm going to do the journal first, and then it'll be similar for storage, I believe. But we'll see about that. And then lastly, I'm going to, see if I can figure out these audio wave files. See if I can get the file paths to work for these. Not, I'm going to scrap that. And then I'm going to figure out why journal.cs will not load. So that is pretty much a full analysis of what I've done, try to get done this week. So next week, we hopefully our plan. And like I said, we had to kind of pivot here because I didn't want to spend so much time on the audio frequencies that I didn't make a functional app. So I had to pivot here for this week. So like I said, so next week, I'm going to be storing the user input text, and we are going to be displaying that for them, and they'll be able to scroll through their previous entries. And then hopefully this week, I'll be able to also store their data here, and then display it to them maybe roughly, so not like in the way that I want to, but maybe just on a console or a basic message, and then hopefully by the end of this project, I'll be able to display it graphically for them. But I'm going to focus one thing at a time. So that is the end of my sprint, and good night.